Hello and welcome. I am the rest of Kaiser.
And once again, he is very quiet. I am Johnny B.
I'm Brush and Quill.
And I'm Woolly Mike.
But together we are
Modeling for Advantage.
Wasn't that beautiful? All right.
Sort your mic out, Mike.
Is it
Sort
bad?
it out.
My
Sort
mic.
it out.
No, not that mic. Kaiser mic.
Is my microphone gone funny? My microphone was fine moments ago, and now it's not.
It sounds a bit muffled.
Oh,
Like you've
really?
stuffed it down your pants again.
It's right here, man.
Oh.
I don't know what else I can do about that.
Just talk. You're loud enough anyway, so it's mostly a good thing.
Okay. All right. So catching up with people in the comments. There's Josh. If you're in the comments, say hi. By the way, Josh is there. Team Clueless Games. Rosie is here. Hello. Axe and Axe once again. I'm at work. Got to toss up like a run. Toss up a like. Oh, toss up a like and run off. Right. Sorry. I get that now. Okay. Last live show. Gone on holiday on Monday. All right. Have a great time, buddy. Rich John, unfortunately, and we'll have to watch the show in the morning as work has rudely clashed with the show this week. Roll on retirement so I can enjoy the live show every week. Yeah, retirement. I'd love that. Rob J, good evening, mate. And Friends of General Haig is here. Good evening. Good evening. Aled, of course. Building and painting Soviets for Team Yankee. My wife is laughing at me for claiming build scale models is helping me calm down after a day working on a one-to-one scale. So I think he works in the defense industry, I seem to remember. Do you work for Vickers or something, Aled? There is a danger of some Welshmen entering our forces because Johnny B's new Flames of War army is going to be Guards Armoured, and I'm sure that the Royal Welsh are in there. We'll have to have a look at which particular units they are so that you can hear my terrible, terrible Welsh accent.
Yay!
Are you going to say us Men of Harlequin?
From the hills resounding, mate. There is a very real chance of that, yeah. Oliver Cromwell. Kit bashing. Warts and all, sir. Warts and all. I want to see those warts. Cameron is here. Good evening, Cameron. Solvent Abuse UK and Gamers with Coffee. Right, that's us. Let's have a quick look round, see what everybody's doing in the modelling tonight. I am going to be putting some clump foliage on the bases of the trees just to spruce them up a little bit.
Nice.
That's what I'll be doing. What about you, John?
I am currently working on some World War II US Marines for Island Assault, which is coming up in the not too distant future.
I believe next week.
Well, it may be. I don't know about our game. What are you up to, Callum?
I'm putting flesh tones on some nautical themed dwarves for Blood Bowl.
Woohoo!
Hello, sailor.
And Mr. Woolly Mike, have you got anything in front of you?
Well, originally I was going to try and repair my Battletech spheroid dropship, but there's little
look at
bits
that
missing.
beauty.
When I dropped it, it dropped and broke, so I can't find
Look at
missing
that.
pieces. So instead,
R2
I'm building 250s and 251 half tracks.
Nice. Very good.
The small
I'm
and
just going to
medium
comment
half-track.
that R2D2 looks like he needs to go on a diet. Right, so we've come to that section where Mr. Woolly Mike, if you would kindly tell us who the hell you are and how the hell you managed to stumble across our beautiful channel, sir.
Okay, well, a long time ago in a sunny little island down south called the Isle of Wight, I ran into a lovely chap called the Kaiser when we started playing in a war games club on the island. I found out that the Kaiser is a demon when he plays Axis and Allies.
I love that game.
He'll go all in on the first card in poker many a time.
Oh, yeah. We used to have a poker school, didn't we?
You were all in, Mike, and I was Riverboat Mike.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
We played various war games and very much, and we stayed in contact for a long time. And Mike told me about the channel, and I fell victim to the subliminal inserts, and I've been buying everything that you guys play. So
Nice.
And it's such a stage this weekend. I'm going up to the Kaiser Schloss to play a couple of games against him.
Ooh, might get to see you then. There you go.
And before, oh no, that was the wrong button. There we go. Before this, you mostly were like a Warhammer dude, right?
Yes, Warhammer. I actually started playing Warhammer when it came in a box with just 3 books and no figures.
Oh, wow.
With my friend Sean Rogers, and because we found the box game, but we couldn't find the soldiers, so we actually just made card templates the size of the bases and wrote the names on it. And Sean infamously lost a battle where he had mounted Bretonian knights that charged into a militia unit, and all he had to do was roll anything but ones, and he rolled 90% ones.
Wow.
So,
epic.
Yeah, so any more than 4 or 5 ones is a Sean Rogers roll nowadays.
Wow.
Warhammer 40k was Speed Freaks, and a 6mm American Civil War is the biggest army I've got. And now I've got Flames of War, British and German. I've got Bolt Action. I've been playing BattleTech again because of Kaiser reviewing that back at Christmas. I've been playing first edition. So Flames of War and Bolt Action are on the agenda for the weekend.
Nice.
It was you getting BattleTech that saved me a lot of effort in that respect, because we were talking about it afterwards, and you said it was taking 4 or 5 hours to play.
Once you go up to 4 mechs each,
yeah, I'm out. I can't do that. All right. Now, you bring up an interesting point there, though, about the 5 ones. So one of the things that you come across a lot in wargaming forums and people telling you their stories after their games is how the dice cheated them, or how the dice, this game is just ridiculous. You can't get that kind of result. Or you shouldn't roll 4 6s on 4 dice, whatever. And I find that bizarre, really. I understand in the moment when that happens to you, that's pretty upsetting, right? It's like, John, just roll 4 6s and blow up all 4 of my tigers. Boom. Okay. But we're playing a dice game, right? There are games with charts, with tables, with deterministic results. And nobody wants to play those games anymore. That's what games used to look like. When I played WRG6, I got 12 figures firing at factor 7, does 17 casualties with a bow. Right? Those games exist, and they died. I don't know. What do you think, John?
I think many things, and none of it happens. What do I think? I don't know. I love dice. You can't complain about dice. It's completely bloody random. You got to embrace it. And as Eric M says, dice never cheat. They only reveal. Yes. Very good. There's nothing to dislike about that. Just laugh it off. What you need to do is learn how to lose better.
Learn to lose better. And you're really good at losing. So, Callum, what do you reckon? Dice games, swingy dice games. What do you think?
The only time I've ever felt cheated by a game was actually a computer game. So no, or Blood Bowl. But no, I think that it leads to interesting situations. It leads to those situations where, your ultimate "I should kill everything" unit trips over a mouse and kills itself. Or your unit, which should be absolutely mullered, manages to completely clean the board. And those are the stories that me and my friends still talk about. Do you remember when my Imperial Guardsman Bayonet charged a unit of orcs and fought them off? That's a story we enjoy. And
those are great moments in games.
Yeah,
I think. Absolutely.
That's what brings the movie magic.
Yeah, and in deterministic games, those things don't happen. You need that high chance factor. Absolutely. So, Mike, swingy games. that you're playing BattleTech a bit at the moment. I mean, that's about as deterministic as you get, isn't it?
It is
very much an attritional warfare system of accumulated damage and so forth.
Yeah, well, you guys were talking last week about trying to do all the maths and everything else. Well, we actually use there's an app on iPod and Android where you go and find your mech and it uploads all the data for it. Mm-hmm. You tell the app what the piloting skill and gunnery skill of your mech is. You tell it how much you've moved and whether it's run, walked, or jumped. You then tell it what the target's done, and it does all the calculations for you. And you can even actually get it to do the dice rolls for you. So it does speed it all up a bit. All the battle maps are sort of like about 12 by 24 inches. I've laminated them all between perspex so that we don't have to keep laying out the paper sheets and that. So with the app, and there's a website which like a BattleTech inventory, so you can go and get all the out of print rules and everything. So a little bit of research, you can actually get it all up and running quite easily.
So it kind of rewards that level of investment, doesn't it? That out of game investment, putting the time in.
Yeah,
which is another one of those wargaming things that people. You know, I used to like that. You know, as a kid, I used to sit with the advanced D&D manual, pouring through all of the magic items and reading the monsters manual and looking at the weapons charts. And I loved all of that because it was a way of engaging with it whilst I couldn't play. Whereas now, as I've got so much less time available, I find pre-game work for a game really, really irritating. I increasingly want to be able to sort of pitch up and play, really. So like in Warhammer, we tend to play power level because the list making is easy. And at Tanks, it's got a very, very simple list making thing, you know, whereas other systems, like we was making lists for Flames of War and Team Yankee at the moment, and they're quite complicated, not only because of the formation morale thing, but because you need to recognize a proportion of your force probably doesn't start on the table. And you need to think about which bit of your force that's going to be. You don't want to make that decision at the table if you expect to do well. So the game I just played with James, I had all my Tigers went on the table. It's like, okay, that's actually not a great idea because they're a really big part of my force.
I have to say, I was watching the Flames of War game you do, where you roll on you like, so you roll a 4+, but that's on your opponent's card, not on a table or anything like that. Yes. And I thought that helped get around a problem which I dislike, which is where the fluff doesn't match up to the rules. You know, where this thing is meant to be this ultimate tank or, you know, a unit that's trained for 80 years or whatever, and then because of the difference of the tables, they're absolutely rubbish.
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I think it's Thomas Chase in there somewhere comments about this is going back to the dice thing and the swinginess of it. He says even a Panzer I has a chance to chase off a comet, and that I think that sort of slips into what you just said there. Not only do things not particularly play up to the narrative of what they can do, but also the swinginess of dice can sometimes bring in that element of, like, you know, a lasgun killing a Titan. You know, it shouldn't happen, and the Panzer I. Chasing off a doofer. So yeah, I'm not too keen on that aspect. Anyway,
it's like with Blood Bowl, you know, if you've got say you've got an undead mummy in 4 tackle zones with an agility of 1, if he rolls a 6, he can make an interception.
Blood Bowl is the only game where those dice, it's fine. That's awesome. It's meant to be that. It's Nuffle's will, man. But some other games, you're like, hang on a minute, this Panzer I, going back to that reference, this Panzer I should not be able to penetrate that comet or whatever. But yeah, Blood Bowl is the perfect thing for swinging dice and craziness. Oh, and you one go for it to win. One go for it. All you need to do is not roll a 1. You roll a 1. It's all right. I've got loads of rerolls. I'll use one of those. You roll that dice, then you roll a 1 again.
But with Blood Bowl, you know, as soon as you you don't go for it all game. As soon as you go for it, you know you're going to fluff it. But you still go for it. Yeah. You still do it though.
I love that. I love that about the game.
All right. Should we look at some pictures and do some chatting about
Well,
the
hey.
Have we got
pictures?
some
Let's
pictures of it?
do.
Have we got some
share
pictures?
the
Insert wolf
screen.
whistle.
We've got lots of pictures. Let's start with these ones. Okay, because this is something. There's a reason why Wood, Mike, and Callum are both on at the same time, is because they're both American football people. So I thought we'd talk a little bit about Blood Bowl. It is not a game that we play very often on the channel. We've never played it on the channel. I haven't
Not
played
at
it
all.
since I was a boy. So tell us what we're looking at here, John. These are the pictures you've sent me.
These are the pictures I've sent you, and I'm glad you got this one first. Well done, you. So this was the this was the previous edition that's just sort of gone out of print, the 5th edition at the time, and it's the one I've played the most, I reckon, out of all of the editions. I got into it in 4th, properly playing it. I was aware of 2nd with the monopose models, of which I possess some of, and you'll see those a bit later. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with this edition, and you just can't. There's nothing to not like about the game. It is just mental. If you're a goblin or a halfling versus an orc team, expect to get beaten up and enjoy it because it's half the fun. It's a really good game, man. You should really try it if you haven't.
Yeah.
But they have updated it, so I think most probably during all this COVID madness and the lockdown, boom.
This is
got
the next
Blood Bowl.
picture.
That's the one. That's 2nd season edition. So this is a revamp, and they've actually changed it a little bit now, because the core rules have been pretty much the same. Well, they still are, to be fair, in this edition. But one of the key things they've changed is instead of the scale rolls, like Agility 3 means you need a 4+, that sort of scale system that Games Workshop have always used. They've now got target numbers, so it's pass 3+. So they've done that. They've changed a few of the skills and how they interact with other players on the pitch, and sort of streamlined it a little bit. But I've not actually played this edition yet. I've not had a go, so
Right. So
I am
this
looking
isn't
forward
the
to
second edition. This is the second.
No.
season,
This is called second season. So essentially, it's an update of 2016. Well, they've changed it, so it's not. This is the 6th edition of the game, but they called it second season. So there you go.
An interesting one. Gamers with Coffee. Is that Greg? Blitz Bowl. So the Blitz Bowl is one of those games that they've done a series of like gateway games or attempts at gateway games, and they're not actually very easy to get hold of in the UK because we don't have Barnes and Noble here, so they don't really exist. You can't buy them in hobby shops either.
I need to find out about that because I'm pretty sure a few of the players down at the LTT GC have actually got Blitz Bowl. I need to inquire as to where they got it from. I think they may have made it available over here, you know.
I think you could get it from Game at one point. But anyway, let's have a look at some miniatures. Yes. So look at this. Hey,
so this is a right old mishmash. You've got the 2016 Orc team there. Right. That came in the 5th edition box. Lovely miniatures. They really upscaled it as well. Very dynamic. I say dynamic. It's that whole monopose thing again. So you get 2 blitzers, 2 Black Hawks, are all the same pose, but they are really dynamic miniatures. And the little dudes you see on the left, the humans, the red and blue, they're from the 3rd edition, I think.
These don't look like the current humans with the big plumes.
No, they're 2nd edition.
Is it second? Second.
They are 2nd edition.
The polystyrene board. That was the one. And I
First edition was cardboard, and the figures were cardboard, and they sat in a little slot. 2nd edition was the 16 orcs and 16 humans in exactly the same poses, and the 3-piece polystyrene board, which
that's the one
I still play on. We don't use any of the modern boards. We still use the polystyrene painted up.
There's something about it. I actually have no pictures of, but I did purchase a copy of that sitting up there, and it is a glorious thing. That, however, is an ugly thing. This is completely non-GW related, but I use this as my troll for my orc.
That's a troll.
I'm using that as a troll, or I call it a squiggeth, or a squiggle, I call it. It's a miniature from a game called Vor the Maelstrom, and I thought, do you know what? It looks like a squig has eaten a troll, and the troll has regenerated inside the squig's stomach, and therefore you have a squig head, but with a troll body. So there you go. I'll use that as a troll.
We do have several teams from there's an Italian company, I think it's Gazbez Models, and they do a lot of they're Blood Bowl teams for want of a better word, but they're not called Blood Bowl teams.
Of course.
One of my friends, the best one it was Scottish Halflings.
Oh, wow.
Rather than having a tree man, in the Halfling team, you can have 2 tree men.
Yeah.
And the models, instead of that, you had about half a dozen Halfling Scotsmen with a caber.
Right, with a tree. Not a tree man, a tree.
Yeah.
Men with trees. I love that. The Blood Bowl is supported so well by third party producers out there. There's so many gorgeous teams.
These are from Punga 3D prints.
Oh, the ones that you've got. Punga. Yeah, man.
Those again, Callum.
They're Punga. BJ Kerno's got some of them as well. If you want to look on his.
And these are dwarfs.
Yeah, these are dwarf pirate guys. These ones.
Does that one have a deep sea diving helmet on?
Yeah, I'm painting these 3 first, and they've all got deep sea helmets on.
That's genius.
There we go. I didn't look like he had a face at first. Now I realise. Yeah. Okay. Now this.
But yeah, no, I was going to say one of the things I've heard about the GW ones is the fact you get half a team twice. You don't get 16 or however individual sculpts. It's 8 sculpts.
Yeah, that's what you get. It will be 1 catcher, 1 blitzer, 1 thrower, 3 linemen times 2. That's what you get. 12-man unit and 12-man team. So a lot of people, especially if you want to really sort of make a proper team out of it, you generally want 4 blitzers and any other specialists you've got. So you end up buying like 2 or 3 teams or scouring eBay for those extra pieces.
Right.
Which does suck.
I love. Let me zoom this.
Oh, you love that? Well, that thing there.
I love this. I do. Boom. So this is your score tracker, is it, John?
Yeah, my score tracker. Yeah, a little squig on a chain. Squig's a 40k squig off of one of the Orc war bosses. And I thought, wouldn't it be really funny if he's just like tied to the bottom of that snotling, like a dog chain, and then he'll run up the scoreboard as a score. Something to say, he never made it past 1 or 2 with the Orc team. If I was really lucky, so he didn't get to use.
Any game ever goes over 3 touchdowns, does it?
It does if you're dwarfs versus these fellas here, the old wood elves, they can score.
Or Skaven.
If they stay standing up.
Yes, there you go. And that's also what I love about Blood Bowl, is that the teams play so very, very differently. Elves are really fast and runny, and they're quite capable of scoring touchdowns, same with the Skaven. But then, as you say, that's if they survive the beatdown from the Orcs, or the Dwarfs, or the humans, or anything.
My preference is Chaos Beastmen, because they start mutating and you can have some really, really weird combos.
Oh, you can have some horrid stuff with that. The claws, the tentacles.
But you said Go on.
No, you go, Callum.
No, I was going to say I like playing humans because I can adapt to whoever I'm playing, because they're not bad at anything, but they're not good at anything.
This is true.
They're very much the starter team.
Josh Wood saying Lizardmen are hard to beat. They're tough because their hard stuff is real hard and their fast stuff is real.
Well, you get a Kroxagor, 6 Lizardmen, and then some skinks.
Yeah, the little skinks. They are tough to beat. What was another one I just saw there? Thomas Chase. That's something else. But yeah, Blood Bowl. It rocks. That's a Wood Elf, by the way. A Wood Elf lineman of their current range. And he's the only one painted
Not a Moocow elf. Do they not have a?
He's not a Moocow elf, but I reckon you could actually do a pretty simple conversion and make some Moocow elves.
I was going to ask if you can make your own minis for Blood Bowl. I mean, like everything else. So this is one of those ongoing topics, isn't there? Is if you want to play a game in a tournament sponsored by Games Workshop, if you want to play in their shop, They pitch and fall on just exactly how prescriptive they are. But fundamentally, if you want your miniatures to be usable on their scene, don't use anybody else's.
Got to be theirs. Yeah.
Right now, don't even buy resin bases on eBay, because some prick someday is going to say no. But if you don't get involved in playing in Games Workshop stores or their sponsored tournaments, everybody else is perfectly happy. You know, a Blood Bowl is a game like you've been playing in a league. Is it in its second season now?
Third season. Third season.
The same generation of Blood Bowl. You know, that stuff is out there. So kit bash away, man. Use other people's stuff. Because if you there's Blood Bowl, you want to play in the league.
There's nothing stopping you picking, say, that you want to play Wood Elves and then buying a box of Tau and building a Tau team, but playing them as Wood Elves. You know, if you want to use GW models.
Yeah,
really,
I mean,
as long as everybody knows what they are.
As long as you can distinguish the positionals from the this and the that. Like, even with my monopose humans there, I've tried to make them, you know, I have 4 blitzers. They're the ones with the spiked helmets. And I've also used the old school colour for the positionals, so they have red flashes.
The bases with the rings.
Well, yeah, sort of. I mean, as you can see, I use clear bases normally, but I've used those colours that used to be the rings. So, like, my catchers have got yellow gloves, my throwers got white gloves, my linemen have got grey gloves. There aren't any blockers anymore other than Black Hawk blockers and whatnot, so green is rarely used, and red for the blitzers. So, but yeah, as you say, Callum, as long as your opponent is aware of what is what in any system, in any game, then, you know, there shouldn't really be a problem. Yeah. So the answer is to that question, yes, you can make whatever the hell you like, but as Kaiser said, just, you know, if you go into a sanctioned Games Workshop tournament, expect to be punted out the door.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Well, that's very unlikely to be what you're going to go and do. Picked up the Snotling team. So what's the Snotling team like?
6 ogres and 5 snotlings.
Oh, no.
Sound like a Snotling team.
That's the ogre team.
Sorry, that's the ogre team,
nobblers. And then the snotlings are just ridiculous because all they've got is stupid stuff like throwable mushrooms and a pump wagon. They've got a pump wagon that they can fill on the pitch.
Snotling pump wagon.
Which is just a ramshackle wooden thing.
Oh, no, there are more. There are more. Look at that bad boy.
What? Oh, the finest. If you're going to play Blood Bowl, it's worth playing the shorter teams, the stunty team. It really is worth it because they're absolutely bloody useless, and it makes the game much more enjoyable. And if you do score somehow, then you know you've earned that.
But they ignore tackle zones, don't they?
I think they ignore tackle zones, and I think the really small ones, like Snotlings, don't actually have a tackle zone either because they're so titchy. So you can just like literally.
Oh, they can't stop you from.
That's actually the rule.
Exactly,
titchy.
They're so tiny. Yeah, titchy.
Titchy.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, there we go. Seeing these guys up close.
There's some classics. There you go, Woolly Mike.
I'm loving that guy with the busted lip there. Look at that beauty.
Yeah, you've got some with black eyes and bust up lips.
And the spiked ball as well. That's always a fun one to play with.
Oh, it is
Dungeon Bowl variant.
So this is what you're saying about having different coloured gloves and boots. These are for. So these miniatures are all identical, so that's how you've marked them out.
Needed to distinguish them somehow. And with the clear bases, I mean, if I had normal bases, I could have just used, you know, written blocker on the bottom and catcher, whatnot. Right. In fact, they even give you decals now with the teams so that you can do that. You can have the positional places put on the base. But yeah, so I did that. I did the old school. I mixed the old and bought it with the new clear bases.
Do you follow the living rule book for Blood Bowl?
Now, I must admit, I'm not a one for following any rules. I leave that to competent people, and then I just sort of roll dice at people and do stupid things. But yeah, the living rules was a good thing for a while.
I like them because they take the best every time they release a new edition and they change something.
Yeah.
The living rule book keeps the best of them and gets rid of all the crud. And then it's like with your big guys, you know, they come on a base that takes up 4 squares on the polystyrene pitch.
Yeah.
But they're only supposed to take up 1 square. But in the old Star Players book from edition 2, there was a special rule where they actually played on 4 squares, and so they had 8 tackle zone squares on them
Of a bigger
Yeah.
tackle zone. Yeah.
which made having big guys good, but then there was the disadvantage if you play a nimble team and they get somebody behind them, because the player can't use its rear tackle zone. So somebody stands behind an ogre, the ogre then can't turn around without making an agility roll, and then you shut them down. So
it's fun times. I can't say I've followed the living rule book that well, but it's good that is that a community supported thing? That
yes,
is.
yeah. I think it's living LRB 6 at the moment. If you just Google LRB 6 PDF, then it's all fully downloadable with all the rules, all the teams, revised points, costs, and everything.
I really do like the fact that Blood Bowl and the players are very community, focused. It's a good community.
Game that Games Workshop kind of left for a while?
For a long time,
kind of had like 10, 15 years in the darkness when the keen players were still keeping it going. Like the fantasy game at the moment.
They did it originally. They did it originally. So Necromunda and Blood Bowl were like a one-off special edition, which they released all the teams and then stopped supporting it.
Yeah.
And then a bit later on, they drag it out of the cupboard again. So
it died in the specialist games purge.
Yes.
So that's when Epic, Necromunda, War Master, all of that Games Workshop said we're not going to support it anymore. And from what I've heard, in Europe, it was so big, it was a third or fourth core system. So basically, Europe kept it alive through living rulebook and stuff because it was so big over there.
Yeah.
And then Games Workshop suddenly went, hang on a minute, this is doing really well in
we
Europe.
Could be making money off of this.
And brought it back. And they've tried to do it their other specialist games, but like Aeronautica didn't really go anywhere and stuff like that. So not in the same way Blood Bowl. Not in the same way Blood Bowl did.
I've even got Battlefleet Gothic in a box downstairs.
Oh, you're sitting on money there.
Chaos and Necrons are the 2 fleets I've got.
You've got
Bonnie
Battlefleet
team.
Gothic, a full set, playable.
Yep.
Mate, that is something that I would like to see. Right.
I love Battlefleet Gothic.
Anyways, a lot of chat going on out there about Rosie's money team. Maybe take some pictures of that for the future.
Yeah. Sure. I need to get that done.
So that is Blood Bowl. But we got other pictures, haven't we? Other pictures.
Not many other pictures.
Any other
unless
pictures?
Callum's contributed. I hope so.
No.
So I did a video and I forgot to take photos.
So if I share, talking a little bit about Warhammer news because we're talking Warhammer. So first up is this. Boom.
This is
this weekend.
This is the Age of Sigmar recruit elite and what's it, right?
Yes, absolutely. So, for anyone that's interested, I'm sure you know, Age of Sigmar, their new fantasy game, has got a new edition come out. They'd got a collector's edition box called Dominion or something. But now there are these 3 basic starter sets, which are, I forget the name. This one's the Warrior edition, though, which we are going to get. James Workshop is going to take these away.
Awesome.
He's going to take the orcs and paint them up, and we're going to have a look at this.
I like it when you two do the learn to play videos, especially as they seem to rake in about 10k views. So, yeah, well worth doing.
And this is another thing which this is
what
my.
Is that?
That's Festus.
That is the Sisters of Battle Combat Patrol.
Oh, of course.
This is the next Combat Patrol box that's coming out. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, every time I look at Sisters of Battle, I think I should get this on me. I like this.
No. Well, you could do. You briefly, you stole 5 of my Arco Flagellants.
Yeah. You mean that I gave you and then took back?
No, I bought them, and then you took
Did you?
5 because you had a Sisters of Battle
Right.
squad.
Right. Oh, to make a kill team.
Yes, which we didn't do. Boo!
Didn't
Yet.
do. No.
Get killed him out of that.
I had a decent chunk of Sisters stuff just sat in boxes, and during lockdown, in the first lockdown, stuff just wasn't available. So I just put it on eBay, not gouging it, just like somebody else wants this right now. If I can make my money back, I will. I'll be delighted to let him do that. So that's the GW stuff. Obviously, there's new kill team coming out in the near future, but we haven't got a date for that. But those two things are on pre-order.
I must say, only because there was a comment from Josh Wood. The giant dragons he screamed in the comments there. I don't know if any of you guys have seen it, but they've put up on the Warhammer community 2 whacking great Age of Sigmar dragons, and they look beautiful.
Really?
Yeah, they must have done it literally this afternoon, so it's mostly slipped through on there, and I only stumbled across it accidentally. But they look massive, and they look gorgeous and expensive.
They're finally the proper size. Finally, the proper size a dragon should be.
Yeah.
How much was that creepy looking dog, moo cow dog thing?
The moo cow dog. Well, I don't even know. The moo cow? I don't know.
So
There's
for the
been a
moo
few-
cow elves, they had a wizard
They have
who
one.
had this crazy looking animal. It was like a llama with wings or something.
No.
I mean, it must
Like
be
a
100 odd quid. 150.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they've got to be at least the same price as their giants that they bought out, the Gargants.
Right. Yeah. So enough Games Workshop. People are getting, frustrated with just talking Games Workshop stuff. So let's talk about some historicals. You mentioned bolt action, so let's have a look.
Thomas Chase.
This is where we are up to from John.
And this has taken its sweet ass time as well. There you go. That's my effort. One of 24 infantrymen, not including the M3/ or what M5 or whatever the American designation was for their half track. Yeah. So this is going to be for the Island Assault box set that's coming out. Yeah.
Although he does look a bit like he's hunting big game, sir.
Oh, it does a little bit, yeah. Kaiser said jungle. I did do him on a sandy base because I thought we were going to be playing on the desert board. He's like, mate, most of the action happened in the jungle. And I was like, oh, shit. So I rebased him literally last night, and that's what I come up with. Most probably looks nothing like the jungles in Okinawa or whatever, but, it's got some leaves and things.
To answer that question, so most of the action took place in the jungle. Okay, there were basically two types of battlefields in the Pacific. There was this is a lump of coral in the middle of the Pacific somewhere.
The atolls.
Those battles last a day because they're not big enough.
Too small, man.
Yeah, it's like we've arrived, we take some casualties, we capture the island. That's just one of those things. You invest an amount of effort and you will capture it because it's a very static defense. But that is a relatively small number of engagements. There definitely are engagements like that, and that's mostly what they're doing in the Central Pacific. There's 2 American thrusts in the Pacific. The Central Pacific is a Navy operation on the Nimitz, whereas the South Pacific, which is going up through New Guinea to the Philippines and to Okinawa, that's MacArthur. That's an army operation, and there's this kind of constant like, who's in charge? Who's going to get more effort? But most of the fighting that isn't just a beach assault, effectively, is going to be in the jungle. In New Guinea and so forth. But even small islands, places like Guam, they're not just a lump of sand.
They were volcanic islands. That's why they were so big hills and that.
Volcanic islands. Yeah, something to look at there.
Jungle is green.
Jungle is green. Jungle is massive.
Jungle is massive, I've heard. A phrase we may be saying far too often when it comes to it. Estimate 125 a dragon. I would have said that last year. I'm not sure. So what always bugs me about Games Workshop pricing and trying to predict it is when they kicked out that Necromunda set for 200 quid. It completely threw me. It's like that is £100 more than what your comparable sets seem to be going for.
That did break the mold somewhat, didn't it?
Yeah, and it always leaves me with the fear that there's that outsider, that it might come in at that price. I shot myself in the GW starter sets. I don't know. I watched the documentary film, The Thin Red Line, and all the battle takes place in long wavy grass.
True fact.
The Thin Red Line.
And Woody Harrelson blows his own arse off with a pineapple grenade. That's awesome.
Yeah, Nick Nolte does a great playing Nick Nolte in that movie. So we are going to do the Island Assault as a learn to play. How far we take and develop those armies afterwards, I'm not sure. The Japanese, it's painted, but it's not beautiful. I need to do a little bit of thinking about some jungle basing. And we need to think about the board, really. What kind of board we would play it on. As the battle out of the box experience, I don't think it comes with any terrain, so that's okay. We'll just play it on the green board as a learn to play thing. But to develop the forces, But we also have another plan, don't we, John? You've got a book.
I have got a book, which is currently beside my bed in another room. But yes,
right.
It is the D-Day sector, British-Canadian D-Day sector from the book, which I've been reading at bedtime, and it's quite interesting. This is the first theatre book that I've actually sort of looked at from the bolt action range, and it's quite good. It proper goes step by step historically. How accurate, I don't know. I'll have to get Kaiser to read it and then just shoot down the whatever.
I mean, it should. The Normandy campaign is extremely well documented.
You'd think so, right? You'd think so, but I bet my last dime that you'd find something wrong with it.
Oh,
but
I'm sure.
It's very good. It's good. It's very themed.
We've done a lot of bolt action games now. Second only to Kill Team on the channel, and we were looking at like how do we bring something fresh, as we want to use the armies that we're familiar with, and we want to use the models that are nicely painted rather than constantly painting new stuff, which we're always doing anyway for other games.
Yeah.
And this Normandy, taking a set of scenarios from one of the books, was like, well, we haven't done that. We have done our own narrative scenarios for Normandy. But why don't we have a look at the ones in the book? So I bought a book, passed it over to John. And it'll be interesting because we'll get to see things like Luftwaffe field divisions. And are there some naval troops in some of those?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure. There's certainly some remnants. The initial first couple of scenarios are like remnant platoons, I think they're called, for the German side anyway. So
they're kind of reconstituted units.
Yeah, you were saying about that. Most of the defenses were just like hodgepodge units that were just smudged together to hold the line, sort of thing. There's a lot of that. There's a lot of extra special rules for like mines and minefields and rubble, which is quite annoying. But I do worry though, because nearly every mission seems to introduce new units or vehicles or terrain that we don't have.
So it might be a long-term project.
There may be
a mission at a time.
There may be some delays in between each of those when we get it done. But no, it's quite cool. The first scenario, which I think we'll be able to do quite handily, other than it is in sort of a built-up area, because our boys and the Canads, we didn't have a long-ass beach like Omaha. It wasn't a run up the sand. It was hop over the wall and you're in a village sort of thing.
Yes, a seaside town, yeah.
So the first scenario is literally first contacts, British infantry hopping over the wall, meeting the elements of Germans that are defending the village. And there's no armor, no artillery, no weapons involved. It is literally infantry only. So we can definitely do that one, other than the buildings that we'll need, to make it a village.
I think the ice cream place
in the book as well. They call for like 5 or 6 MMGs for the Germans.
Yeah,
but they're all irregulars.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
There is lots of that as well, like the reinforced platoons that you're offered up in the back of the book. as Willie Mike says, some of the limitations that we're used to in a generic reinforced platoon are completely abolished, and you've got like 3 flak cannons if you want in a flak company. So yeah, a lot of those restrictions are changed up, which is cool.
Definitely.
But again, it all means more modelling. So
Thomas Chase says most of the Germans were on the Eastern Front. Well, interestingly, one of the things that I've been thinking about recently, from conversations I've been having, is that there are in fact 9 Panzer divisions in the West. That's quite a big commitment of tanks. Half of them are SS. There's serious commitment. The Germans know we're coming in 1944. They don't know exactly where, they don't know exactly when, but they know that we're coming. And I've often been wondering about this, so the Britain's contribution to World War II and how big it is, and the strategic bombing campaign, did it really work and so forth. And I think one of the things that's massively overlooked repeatedly is that there's 500,000 soldiers in Normandy and France. In 1944, there are 9 Panzer divisions. I mean, a Panzer army probably has 2 or 3 Panzer divisions in it, and they've got 4 or 5 of them. There's 2 of them in the West. This is a big deal for Germany. It's a big commitment. So how significant, interestingly, my point is, how significant is it that we actually landed, though? Because I'm a big believer in... Yes, Callum?
I was going to go ask if the commitment was a byproduct of the failure of Operation Cross the Channel, Murder the English. Can't remember what it was called.
Sea Lion.
Yeah, and the fact that had failed, so then that bigged up this whole idea of, they must be pretty hard, and so we must commit more men to stopping them.
It wasn't that. Was
you see where I'm going with that philosophy?
This is 4 years later. Operation Sea Lion was an operation written on the back of a napkin by an army that didn't want to do it, and a navy didn't want to do it, and Goering was like, "Wow, if we win in the air, we'll be able to do it, and I can do this." But we're not in a position to invade continental Europe until 1943, possibly, but we go to Italy instead. But so the naval historian in me, is very much interested in positional warfare. He's thinking much more like chess or like Go. These are games where the position of my pieces dictate to some extent the position you need to put your pieces in. As long as, give you a good example in the maritime, as long as the Tirpitz exists, there is a massive force maintained by the Royal Navy to deal with the Tirpitz if she comes out.
That's grim, isn't it?
If the Tirpitz is destroyed, those ships are free to go somewhere else. If the existence of the American Expeditionary Force, as it was, in Britain in 1944 was enough to keep 9 Panzer divisions in France and 500,000 men between France and Norway, did we need to land? Did we actually need to fight this army and destroy it because it was already there?
Or could we just hold them there in place?
Sit there, keeping those in place? Yeah. In terms of strategy, obviously politics says, of course we need to, because we need to occupy France. We need to get to Berlin before the Soviets do. All of those kind of things. But actually, the Tehran conference, this has all been agreed. Post-war Europe. So I'm quite interested in, like the number of troops. It's 250,000 troops in Norway, and we never invade Norway. But the Germans keep them there. The existence of those armies in Norway is entirely positional. So it's just an interesting one. I don't have any strong views in any particular direction.
But just, I wonder what would,
But they can't leave it open, And actually, one of the things that we did discover when we landed in Normandy was troops from Italy and North Africa landed in southern France the same year, and it was called the Champagne Campaign. There was nobody to oppose them. They landed, and they just kept walking. Frenchmen came out and gave them a drink, said, "Oh, yeah, the Germans have gone, mate." There weren't that many here, and when they saw you coming, they were off. Anyway, love the missions from the campaign. Burks, Cherbourg Peninsula, Kriegsmarine, and Luftwaffe, Fallschirmjäger Defense. Yes. Nice. Oh, it's Medieval Warrior Wargaming. Hello
Yay!
there. So I'm used Love Bolt action. Got like painting SS P dot and oak leaf looks smart. P dot camouflage, man. And on 28mm Grenadiers.
Some crazy people paint it on 10mm.
But the tunics
Wow.
also they lace up at the collar as well, don't they? They're a little bit different. The smocks they wear, which was more problematic for me. Partly it's an eyesight problem. We'll meet again. Don't know where and don't know when.
I thought that when you said that, but yeah.
Positional warfare. Put Patton in charge of a fake army in Kent, looking at Calais. Well, that is one of the things that we did. Yeah. Although interestingly, I think not a single German reconnaissance fighter ever saw one of those rubber planes, rubber tanks.
Did they see the team of guys outside blowing it up?
And there was the fake Montgomery down in the Mediterranean as well, wasn't there?
A fake Montgomery.
Yeah, an actor.
A blow-up doll of Montgomery.
No, an actor played Montgomery doing a tour of Gibraltar and North Africa.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
Film. I was Montgomery's double.
Wow.
That's the other guy, and they sent him all over North Africa, talking about the invasion of southern France.
They did a movie about that where they did it but it wasn't Montgomery. It was a fictional movie where they did it for another general. I can't remember who it was now. No, some Roman something or other. And they sent him all over.
Oh, my cough gets bad as the temperature rises because the air conditioning's not on. Sure, folks in France would appreciate us landing. Well, interestingly, the people of Normandy didn't necessarily come out of the whole occupation of France too well, because a lot of French civilians died in that campaign, an enormous number, particularly at Caen, which we strategic bombed.
Oh God, yeah, I read about that the other night. It's like, yeah, we're going to do that.
Thousands of civilian casualties, massively more than enemy casualties. And it was kind of the thinking at the time.
Such a dick move, man. I can't believe we did that.
Was that in terms of the totality of France, it said we need to do the Normandy bit, no holds barred, and there are going to be civilian casualties in Normandy, but there are going to be a lot less civilian casualties in the rest of France if we pursue this campaign very aggressively, and we can break out. And it does work. I mean, after the breakout from Normandy, the Falaise pocket, France is basically liberated on the march. You know, there isn't a huge amount of fighting happens after that. But the civilian population of Normandy suffered really badly in that campaign. Yeah.
Grim.
Stalin rolls over the whole of Western Europe. Yeah, that is the real problem. Yeah. Thomas Chase is 25mm. We have only got a few minutes to go. So I have another picture. So Mike then is so Wally Mike is a dear old friend of mine. He's coming to see me at the weekend. We haven't actually met up for years, but we used to go to a club together when I lived on the Isle of Wight. He's bringing that stuff this weekend. We are hoping to play some Flames of War. We are hoping to play some bolt action, and we might try a few other things because he's suddenly got an extra day. So you will see Wally Mike on the channel from time to time. But we don't live in the same town, let alone, have overlapping free time. And because he's an American football coach, which was why we were talking about Blood Bowl tonight, by the way, both Brush and Quill and Wooly Mike are American footballers. Because of that, he's often not available evenings and weekends and so forth. But you will see him from time to time. So what we got here then, Mike? Let me zoom in. Anything special here?
Right, we'll start at the very bottom. That's in the metal case is all of my Flames of War American. I think there's 3 tank companies of about 45 Shermans in, and a full armored infantry regiment as well, with about 24 half tracks, jeeps, etc. And
nice.
The tanks boxes at the top is what I carry my infantry in. So that's American Airborne and the armored infantry all in those smaller boxes. and then obviously the American D-Day book, unit cards and command cards to go with those.
Yeah, we've not played with command cards, have we, John?
There are command cards?
There are command cards, yeah. They're like non-unit upgrades.
Should I chuck my German set in as well then?
We're still struggling with the basic rules. Every time we fire an artillery barrage,
Yeah, it's like what?
we have to get a book out.
I don't think we've ever used them either, but there are some fun ones in there. You got some character regiments and that get some special skills. So the middle box is all of my bolt action British Airborne.
And they're brand new.
Right?
That army is like 2 weeks old or something.
It's had 2 games against an unpainted German army because Sean's a bit behind on the painting of the German half of them. But yeah, there's about 1,200 points of bolt action British Airborne in there.
British Airborne. Most of them got berets on, of course, for battle because it looks good.
Yeah, well, I've gone for a spattering of berets just to show that they're airborne.
Yeah.
And the little blister pack is actually a present for Johnny.
Oh,
For me?
Yep.
Is it dead people?
No.
Mate.
No,
Is it naked Willy Wangers?
no, it's.
Oh, don't care then. Not interested.
Oh, you do. Oh, you do.
You
will.
Is it actually bolt action dudes?
Mm.
It is bolt action, dude. Yes,
I think I see an umbrella.
you do.
Is that Frost and what's it? And that's
There you
epic. They can join the
It's
pile.
Urquhart, Frost, and Watham Taylor. I think is it Watham Taylor? I think his name.
Nice. Well, that is most kind, sir. I will make sure to put them at nearly the top of the pile.
I was saying about the discovering the little war game shop. I'm going to drop their name. It's called Musketballs 1812 Wargaming in Southampton. I went round there to have a look because I found it, and I prefer browsing to online shopping. And they had that command set on a blister, so it had to be purchased for mine. So I will be using the Umbrella Chappie as my lieutenant in any bolt action games.
Epic.
And I said to Kaiser that you'd be well jealous, so I popped back and bought a set for you.
Well, that is most kind, sir. I will have to put that on top of the pile of things to paint.
Look at his smile.
A question from Josh. Yeah, and I really need to get Ian on the show. I don't know if any of you guys have met Ian because he's a Lancaster friend. You might have met him. Did you ever see him in the Isle of Wight? Anyway, Josh Wood asked, Kaiser, did the Allies really have no idea about the hedgerows in Normandy? I was watching a documentary, said the US were completely unprepared for them. So this is the bocage in Normandy. Right. So I guess the thing is, we're in England, we have hedgerows. We have privet hedges. They're usually a couple of feet wide. And if they're left to grow, naturally, they'll get to 10, 12 feet high. But essentially, you could push through them if you really needed to, because they're a couple of feet wide. We've got aerial photographs of the bocage. We can see what look like hedges as field boundaries.
There's hedges in it.
We have no reason to believe that this is a very different system. The French bocage, fundamentally, you have a mound of earth with a ditch beside it, and it's been made by flattening the land. They've pushed all the spoil to the side 2,000 years ago. They've not planted hedges. It's trees and shrubs and things overgrown. This thing's a 12, 14 feet high on an 8 to 10 foot bank of earth. So rather than thinking it from the aerial photographs, it looks like hedges. But from the ground looking through, you're in like enclosed lanes. And you actually see some footage of the troops in the bocage, in the lanes. There's the canopy basically covers. It's overgrown both sides. Yeah. Wow. Talking to the Allied soldiers, the casualty, it's one of those things. It's like it ends up being like city fighting, which is that the casualties in the American suffer are about 50-50 once they get the tactics right. You know, so it's slow going because these are individual fields. You know, every 200 yards, every 100 yards, there's another barrier to cross. But they do work out a system for doing it, just like dealing with troops in buildings or in bunkers. That once you know how to do it, there is a system involving a lot of grenades and suppressive fire. In the case of buildings and bunkers, in the case of bocage, it's generally, you probably know about the Rhino Ram that they do with the Shermans, bulldoze through it. But at the same time, yeah, the Collins hedgerow cutters. But but you want to breach at multiple points, because when you breach, it's pretty obvious where you're coming from. So that's going to draw all of the fire. So you breach in two places at slightly different times. So you know that this breach is going to take all the fire. You're ready to breach somewhere else very shortly afterwards, where you're actually going to send the infantry through.
Riminic, can you imagine that
kind of thing?
Right, Johnny, right, Kaiser, you're going in through the first breach.
No, these are tanks for that, because they did use like the Bangalore torpedoes. It did work, but the thing is, if your engineers dig a hole into this embankment, shove 3 Bangalore torpedoes in, and then it all goes boom, and then when the dust and mud settles, you then storm through the breach. The Germans are pointing 3 MG42s at that hole by that point, because it's really obvious where you're coming through. So we are at 22:31. So I think that is going to be it. I did say the time before last, and I forgot to do it last time, I'm going to leave a pinned comment on the video. If you've got any questions, anything that we didn't cover, and we're hoping to have that as kind of a regular feature for things that we, part of what we do in the show is answer viewers' questions or comments. We have got a SPQR battle video coming out this Friday, the one that members have already seen. And we are recording tomorrow night, aren't we, John? Whoop.
We are.
And this is what we're recording. Oh,
look at that.
Look at that. Let's not look
Cigars.
At that.
Just some tanks.
Tanks, mate. We were about to set up another board for tanks, and then was like, well, this Flames of War mostly okay, right? Let's just use that.
Yeah.
So we just modified it a little bit.
Bodged it, and there we go.
So, as you know, guys, please do like, comment, share, and subscribe to the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. We have affiliate links, membership, all that kind of stuff below. In the meantime, where did we get to with our hobby progress then? I have just about got some clump foliage on the back. You can see the damp PVA. Just to take it off the floor.
That's going to make them, it's going to make them look a million times better. So I've got the boots are done on these boys, and I've done 2 rifles. This is all just base coats at the moment, so long way to go.
This is the US Marines?
Yeah, this is all US Marines, yeah.
I got the first 2 layers of flash done on these cats, and then had enough left over to start Kaiser's officers for his French.
Oh, look at that!
How are my British coming along, Callum?
They're dead. They ran into some bocage.
Oh, that saves us both on some painting there, right?
Yeah, pre-tanks. So,
Mr. Woolley, did you get those tanks built? I heard you clipping away.
So
look at that.
Done one with the 3.7.
Nice.
And I've done 3. Where's my camera?
Are these the normal ones? What are they?
Yeah, but the sprue comes with the Pioneer bridge layers. So.
Oh, that's what that is. Okay, nice.
Pontoon bridges. Yeah.
You can tell I'm new at this, can't you?
What a cool little kit. Oh, no, you can never get anything focused on the live stream, but it's good.
They were the sprues in the German assault gun that I got from modelling from Advantage.
Oh, do they sell stuff, do they? Oh, that's
they do.
An online store if you're in the UK.
Do they? Really?
Yeah, mate.
Wow.
If you're really clever, you can buy the Band of Brothers box set with British Airborne in it instead of American.
Now, that's not a universal offer. That was more of a. Anyway, right. So that's us for this week. another thing is just as a heads up, by the way, if you enjoy watching us talk crap and having a chuckle, we are going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons again a week on Saturday. We'll put the live thing out August the 7th, I think it is. We're going to be doing some D&D. We don't take our D&D very seriously. Callum did. Callum played the straight guy. The rest of us are just
was needed.
we played psychotic murderous hobos, which is what Dungeons and Dragons is, right?
Remember Ars Magica?
Ars Magica, mate. I still got all that stuff. I love Ars Magica, but it's a very complicated game.
Yeah,
for a live
we played that on the island rather than D&D. We started with D&D and then moved over to Ars Magica and had more fun. My psychotic Roland.
Roland was
All right,
a rat by any chance.
That's it for this week. Yeah. All right. So thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye.